I meant to apologize at the beginning. A lot of French names. I am doing my best, but I am certain that I am going to flub one or two. My sincerest apologies.
I would like to take this opportunity to inform everyone that it is good that it is Steve who is doing the French words, because I would do so much worse.
Sit back, it's time to get groovy. Question, do you remember that movie?
Welcome back to Remember That Movie. I am the third Alejandro Rosa on IMDb.
And I am Steve Johnston, and I am not on IMDb.
For this particular episode, we will have Steve take us on what I can only say is a very interesting journey. Steve,
Sir,
please tell our viewers and listeners, where are we going today?
we are headed back to 1995, and we watched La Cité des Enfants Perdus, The City of Lost Children, a French film, and admission number one, I had forgotten that it was a French film.
Stop right there.
Okay.
You've seen this film before,
Yes.
but you forgot it was in another language.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure we all heard that.
In my defense, I last watched this in high school. My friends and I got together, and I believe this was a pick of Mike's. I don't know where he got his information from, but he was the one who was always picking out seemingly weird and random stuff that ultimately was really quite good. This was one of those picks. We watched it, and at the time, thoroughly enjoyed it. And it stuck in my memory for, I think, obvious reasons, which we'll discuss at length coming up. But I am curious to know, sir, had you seen this before? Had you heard of this before? Actually, based on what you said 2 minutes ago, I'm guessing you hadn't.
You're right. The answer to your question is no. I had no idea what this was. I had no idea what I was about to watch. I had no idea it was in French. That was also a surprise to me.
I was kind of thinking that was going to be the case, and I actually have a note in my notebook because half of the time I was watching the film, thinking my own thoughts, remembering things, recalling bits and pieces. And then the other half of the time, I was wondering, what on earth is Alejandro thinking at the moment? This movie comes to us courtesy of Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro, two French directors who met in the 1970s at an animation festival. They became friends, they got together, and they started working on some collaborative works. They did animations, ads, some music videos, I believe, eventually working into short films. And then in 1991, they had their first feature film co-directing called Delicatessen. They actually wrote this story back in 1982, but realized that it would cost more to produce than they could possibly get their hands on at the time. So it wasn't until they had a critical success with Delicatessen that they were able to secure the funding for the City of Lost Children. And from there, let me tell you what this story is about by reading the back of the VHS box. A gutsy little girl and a sentimental strongman join hearts and hands to save a small boy's dreams from a madman's master plan. That was the American VHS.
Good Lord, that was the shortest back of the VHS. I thought you were just pausing for dramatic effect.
No, that's it.
That's why I was like, okay, continue.
That was it. Let me read from you from the back of the European VHS.
Oh, okay, great.
On a mist-shrouded rig in the sea beyond a minefield, Krank ages prematurely because he lacks one vital function, the ability to dream. And so he kidnaps children from the harbor town to steal their dreams. Return to the fantastic world of the creators of Delicatessen and journey with one, a former whale harpooner and circus strongman, and the orphan Miette in their quest to rescue little Donri from Krank's evil clutches. Meet the sinister octopus twins, Irvin, the brain that floats in an aquarium, the inventor and his army of clones, and the fleas that are trained to kill.
That is the most appropriate description of this film because it is accurate, it is spot on. You know what you're getting if you read the back of that one.
So, I have to ask what your first impression was, based solely on the opening scene, because As I mentioned earlier, was wondering what you were thinking and how you were reacting to what you were seeing. This movie hits the ground running, shall we say? It just drops you right into the middle of events. As we slowly, I think, pull back from a window, it's snowing outside, and we pull back into a room where there are mechanical toys clacking away at cymbals, and a young boy standing in his crib, expectantly, almost as if he's awaiting something, and then lo and behold, down the chimney comes a pair of boots, and out climbs Santa. And then a second Santa enters via the chimney, and then a third, and then the background starts to shift and distort as I think a grand total of like 8 Santas enter the room. The boy starts crying, at which point we cut to the interior of the lab out on the oil rig, and our evil scientist Crank sits up with that headgear on his head and screams, prompting every other character in the room to scream as well. And this is the opening to the movie. I'd seen it before. I knew what was going on. What did you think?
Let me tell you what I thought. By looking at my notes from the beginning of the viewing. No little doll with stuff. No, just no. Santa? Why, Steve? Why? When we get to the chaos of the crying and the screaming and everyone starts screaming, yeah. I wrote one sentence. Steve is not a nice man. What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? Why am I in this French horror film? Why are there children crying and Santas everywhere? And a creepy old man screaming, and everyone screaming. Oh, wait, there's a brain in an aquarium. That was my unfiltered, unedited reaction to the opening. I was just like, oh, dear God, what am I watching? Why is it in French? It just makes it worse. That is not how you sell me on your movie. That is how you get me to leave the movie theater with my uneaten popcorn and go, you know what? F this. I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to go watch the Minecraft movie. At least Jack Black will make me feel good.
That was far better than any reaction I imagined. I figured you might be just a little confused and a little put off, but wow, that is excellent. Before we do move on, I would like to just go through a couple of the actors that appear in this opening scene, because these are the villains of the movie. Playing Crank, the evil scientist, we have a Chilean actor, Daniel Emilfork, who was born in Chile, but emigrated to France because he was gay and did not feel safe living in Chile at the time that he was there. Because of his unique facial features, shall we say, became a character actor who specialized in playing villains, which probably would not surprise you.
We're all gifted a face, and
yes.
His was made very much for this.
Around him, we have 6 identical twins, which we will find out later are 6 clones, each of whom is played by French actor Dominique Pinon, who had worked with Jeunet and Caro on Delicatessen. So he was back for some more, and he actually worked with them on a couple of future projects as well, which we might touch upon. And then we have Martha, Miss Bismuth, who was played by Mireia Mosse, theater, opera, radio, television, and film actor, only 120 centimeters tall.
She's great. She's absolutely great. I mean, again, in the weird, creepy sort of way, she's fantastic. For this film, you have to have a weirdness scale, because that is how we're going to judge this film. It's about how weird can you get, because every character is going to be fighting to win the weird crown. So there's there's a spectrum of weird in this film, and everyone hits different marks on the spectrum.
I think it's in a later scene that we find out their backstory, that all of the people that we have just seen are actually creations of a previous mad scientist who is no longer there. And each of his creations has a flaw. Cranks being that he cannot dream, therefore he is aging prematurely. The clones, I think, have sleeping sickness. They will just kind of pass out on their own accord every now and then. Martha is short of stature. And then there's Uncle Irvin, who is the brain in the aquarium, who suffers from migraine, which is both ironically funny and horrible at the same time. We then shift to our second angle of the story with Strongman 1. I'm assuming this is the only actor that you recognized.
Do you think I'm not so well-versed in French cinema? You're right, I wasn't. Here's what I said. What is Ron Perlman doing in this movie?
Yes!
And does Ron Perlman speak French?
Permit me to answer both of those questions for you. It turns out that in the 90s, Ron Perlman did a slew of foreign films. And the directors had seen him in one of these and thought, that's it. That is the guy that we want to play one. And so they got in contact with his agent with an offer saying, oh, please, here's the script. Take a look. Tell us what you think. And they never heard back from him. So they looked at Rutger Hauer. They looked at Christopher Lambert and a few others. But they never heard back from Ron Perlman. So eventually what they did was they got in touch with the director of the film they had seen him in and got in touch with him directly via that channel. Ron Perlman read the script and said, heck yeah, why didn't anyone tell me about this? And fired his agent.
What about French?
He did not speak French. He learned his lines phonetically.
He must have done that in another foreign film because I mentioned this film to someone. I cannot recall who. I apologize. And they said, that's weird because I swear to God I saw Ron Perlman in a film where he was speaking Spanish.
That was probably Cronos, which was Guillermo del Toro's first film. How old would you say the character of One is?
You could ask me the same question about Ron Perlman, and for both I would say, I have no idea.
It blew my mind slightly to learn that Ron Perlman was 45 when he shot this movie.
How old is Ron Perlman?
He's 74.
I assumed he was, I would say, in his 30s, maybe. Early 30s.
I put him either late 20s, early 30s. So One is a circus strongman, and he has adopted a little tyke by the name of Donry, who is 3 years old, played by Joseph Lucien, and that was his only acting credit. The directors realized partway through shooting that they had hinged the success of this movie on a 3-year-old boy. In an interview, they went into some of the things that they would do to keep him happy and make sure that he would do what it was they wanted him to do. Because you cannot turn to a 3-year-old, as they said, and go, you're under contract, you've got to do this scene. He's 3, he doesn't care.
Oh my God. So there's a lot of really young children in this film. Let me just say that again. There's a lot of disturbingly young children in this film that spend half of their time crying, Steve. I was not happy with that. They made so many small children cry.
We will get to that scene because, yeah, I was not a fan of that one either.
But yes, he is tiny. He's a tiny, tiny, tiny babe.
Donry is kidnapped by another set of characters, the Cyclops, kind of a cult group. Each of the members was or is blind, but has had their sight restored via this mechanical prosthesis that they wear over one eye.
It was the Cyberpunk Brigade.
So One gives chase, attempting to get Donry back from the Cyclops, but he is overpowered and ends up running away. And as he is fleeing, he runs into our next main character, 11-year-old orphan girl Miette. Miette is played by Judith Vitette. She had been in one movie prior to this, and so when the directors were thinking about casting, they actually went to her first. She was the first person to audition for the role. They then went through and looked at, I think they said, hundreds of other young actors to see if they could find someone, and every person they saw, they kept going back to her, so she eventually got the role. She was in a couple movies after this one, after which she quit acting and went into costume design, which was more of her passion. This is where things got a little strange for me. And yes, I see you. I see the look on your face when I say that.
Now it's getting strange?
Because if you recall, when One runs into her, she is leading her group, and they are stealing some valuables from a safe, I believe it is. The Cyclops show up. They hide one so that he can't be found. And then the Cyclops take the jewels and the money, thank the orphans, and then leave. And I was trying to figure out if she was supposed to be in league with them, but I've come to realize that nope, it's just they crossed paths. They took what really didn't belong to them in the first place and went on their merry way. Are you with me so far?
As much as you can be with this plot, yes. Tell me about the twins.
Next, we meet the Octopus, a pair of conjoined twins played by Geneviève Brunet and Odile Mallet, who are actually twins. Well-known French actresses. They had been acting, I think, in film and stage since the 1950s. They play our conjoined twins. The boss of the pickpockets. If this were Oliver, this would be, what is it, Fagin or Sykes? One of those two?
Or both, combined, conjoined, if you will.
Boo.
I thought she was actually the same actor playing both, because I'd already seen the clones, right? So I'm like, oh, they're doing this all over the place.
I have to say, they are responsible for some of my favorite visuals when it comes to the acting. The scene with them making dinner and the 4 sets of hands that are moving flawlessly, cutting cucumbers, one hand from each woman holding one side of a grater while the other grates, I think, some cheese or something on top of it. Just the coordination between the two of them was absolutely fantastic.
So we've already said there are clones, there's a brain in an aquarium, there are conjoined twins.
Yes.
And you haven't even mentioned the Flea Man. Please at least explain to us the Flea Man.
The 2 other main characters that we really need to draw into this. One is an old circus performer who used to work with the twins back in the day, and he has some trained fleas. His fleas are trained to essentially inject victims with a little poison that drives them mad and causes them to just murder whoever's near them. He starts cranking an old organ to play a rather haunting tune.
Some kind of music box, right?
The old organ grinder and his monkey sort of deal. The music starts playing, at which point the flea will leave, leaving the vial behind and triggering it to actually inject the person.
And then the person just loses their mind and becomes horribly violent to whoever's near them.
This results in one of... I shudder to bring this up because it's one of those things that it's horrific and yet so intriguing at the same time. And that is the death of one of the Cyclops. So the Cyclops have the eyepiece which allows them to see, but there's a plug in the side. And if you unplug it, they can't see anymore.
It's like a USB port.
Essentially, yes. It would be a USB-C port, yes?
That is terrible.
That was terrible. Oh, one of the Cyclops gets injected by the fleas and starts attacking his fellow Cyclopses, his fellow brothers. And this leads him to unplug his victim's eyepiece, take the plug out of his eyepiece, and plug it into his victim's, and strangle him to death, which leads to this marvelous visual of the last thing the victim sees is himself being strangled from the other one's point of view. It's horrible and horrifying, but darned if that isn't an intriguing death. That is the Flea Man. Marcelo is his name, played by French actor and comedian Jean-Claude Dreyfus.
I think the big plot thing here is that our wonderful creepy people, and you're probably wondering at this point, audience, which ones? All of them. But the original one, the brain, the clones, the small lady, the tall man who's creepy, who can't dream, they are stealing children. That's a big deal.
Right, and I should have mentioned this earlier when Donnery is kidnapped by the Cyclops, because it turns out the Cyclops are stealing children to ship them out to the scientist. In return, the scientist provides them with their eyepieces. So, the last character I think we need to introduce, checks notes, fairly certain this is the last one. Marcelo, the Flea Man, is hired to get one back and return him to the Cyclops. In doing so, Miette is dropped into the harbor and sinks, and we think, oh no, that is the end of Miette. Except no, she is rescued by the diver, who is also played by Dominique Pinon in his 7th role in the film.
So he plays all the clones, and then he plays this guy.
I want to talk about a couple of people who worked on the production because their work, I think, just is amazing in terms of this. We've got the production designer, Jean Rabas. He is responsible for coming up with all of the set designs, which are amazing. They are so remarkably complex and dark and complicated and yet lived in. You feel as though this city is actually a bustling harbor city. I know we've spoken about films in the past where the world has seemed empty. This one does not. This one, there are plenty of people around. You get the feeling that, yeah, this place is lived in. The costumes were done by Jean-Paul Gaultier. His name might sound familiar if I have pronounced it correctly. He's done a couple of things that you will recognize, such as The Fifth Element, and he is the designer responsible for Madonna's cone bra. I also want to mention the cinematographer, an Iranian French gentleman by the name of Darius Kanji, who has done many works that you would probably recognize. He actually did a second movie in 1995, came out just prior to City of Lost Children, Seven. I really loved one of the quotes that he said when studying in film school. All I wanted to do was shoot other students' films. He didn't care about the stories so much as the power of the picture and what you were seeing.
What did people think about this film?
People, in general, liked it. But with some caveats, and kind of the caveats that we have thrown in, that it's kind of dark, and the story is confusing. Roger Ebert summed it up best, I think. There's a couple of quotes from him that I would like to share with you. First, if I were to judge this film solely on its visuals, it would get an unqualified rave, no questions asked. But, and I think he hits the nail on the head with this, I perceived no strong narrative pull to carry me through, and instead was constantly being invited to stay in the moment to experience one visual after another. And I felt myself thinking the same thing, that every shot is gorgeous. The sets are amazing. The costuming's amazing. The acting is great. But the drive that kept the movie going kind of petered out at times. There were times when it just slowed down, and I was trying to sort of reconcile the lack of pace with the idea that no one is trying to get Donry. He's really, really trying to get after him, and yet he's going about it in such a very strange and roundabout way with a lot of side quests, shall we say.
I am 100% in agreement with both of you. If you were to ask me what I thought about this film, because initially I did not like it. I didn't get it, and I had to sit with it for a little bit and think about it. You know, it's hard for me not to find merit in a film.
You sound like me from last episode.
Oh, I know. I actually thought this was a perfect follow-up to last episode, because now I'm the one going, well, it's not all bad. I didn't hate all of it, but I do think the criticism is valid. I really liked the design of the world. I thought it was fascinating. It had depth to it. It felt real, and a lot of thought had gone into the design. I didn't feel like as much had gone into the plot delivery. There might have been all kinds of backstories that we didn't see that they used in order to create the plot. But the actual script, I was like, I didn't know who I was rooting for half the time. And the relationship between Juan and Mignette was weird. And they tried to almost make it weird at one point, but of course they didn't, which was very nice. And I was grateful for that, because we didn't want The Professional. And like you said, there were so many side quests. And I was like, aren't they going to go save the children at some point? Doesn't that seem to be the main plot thing? Because it was like, I'm going to go get my brother. I was like, yeah, what about all the other kids? Because we knew that all the other kids were there. It really felt secondary, even to save the rest of the children, which they did do, yay.
They had to be reminded to do so.
Yes.
Martha, with her dying breath, said, go save the rest of the children.
Yes. A lot of visuals, a lot of great visuals, but no, as far as the story goes, I was just not sold on it. But I will say that after thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I can't knock this movie too bad because it was visually and creative as all get out. And some of the performances are absolutely exceptional. There was not a bad performance in the bunch. I didn't understand the whole plot, but definitely not bad performances.
I don't recall exactly how I felt the first time I watched this back in my teens. I remember liking it, if nothing else, for the visuals. It had a very Terry Gilliam feel to it, if you will. I liked the way that you phrased something just now, which was not that you didn't like the plot or you didn't think the plot was well constructed, but what we got to see of the plot was the problem. Because having rewatched it, remembered, and thought about it, the plot is actually very intricate and very interwoven with a lot of moving pieces, which I like. And I kind of like that as an audience, we are not privy to everything that goes on. We're just kind of seeing, where things intersect over the course of the movie. But you're right in that we don't see enough of the right interactions, if that makes sense, if that's a good way of putting it. If we had seen some slightly different angles on things, I think it would have done better and the plot would have moved along a little nicer than it did.
Critics didn't love it or hate it. They sort of were mixed.
Critics lean towards the good side, saying, oh, this is actually really good. It's just got some stuff that we're not particularly happy about, mostly regarding the plot and trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Monetarily, did not do well. It had a budget of $18 million at the time and ended up grossing at the box offices, because we've got multiple releases over multiple countries, $11 million. However, it has garnered something that has come up on this podcast numerous times before, a cult following. Very highly regarded amongst fans, and I understand why. It's a really fascinating and beautiful movie with some really creepy bits.
With a bunch of creepy bits.
Following this, Jeunet and Caro were actually offered the chance to direct Alien Resurrection, the fourth movie in that franchise. Jeunet said yes. He was excited to work on something big budget in Hollywood. Caro said no. For exactly the same reasons. He did not want to direct a movie over which he would not have creative control. And so he said no thank you. And the two of them have not co-directed since. Caro actually came back to work on Alien Resurrections for 3 weeks or so, doing set and costume designs. I think it's just fun that the movie has Ron Perlman and Dominique Pinon in it. And you'll never guess who the cinematographer is.
I have a sneaky suspicion.
You're absolutely right.
Well, I have to say thank you for taking me on an unexpected French cinema surrealist nightmarescape.
Thank you for letting me drag you along.
I was very surprised, to be perfectly honest. This is not the kind of film I thought you would go for.
Okay.
So you did catch me completely off guard. I am not a big French cinema guy, so I do not have much to contribute in this area.
I haven't seen much myself. This one, I think, is like the most French film I have ever watched.
Yeah.
And that was a weird way of putting that, but I think you understand what I'm going for.
Oh, I 100% do, because I watched it. I was like, I need to read something. I need to watch something, because these are not the visuals that I need before I close my eyes and go to bed.
Something to cleanse the brain.
I need a cleanser. I need a palate cleanser of the brain. Because, yeah, there's certain things you just don't want to watch right before bed.
Santa screaming at a young child.
Singing and then screaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in case you're wondering, folks, you can find this on streaming.
This is the weird thing, but I actually encourage you to watch this for the visuals. The plot is weird. It is dark and twisted, but it is a feast for the eyes. I would encourage you to watch it.
You should. It'll be a journey for you.
Now that I have taken you on that journey, here is the baton. Where would you like to take me? I've really got to work on my phrasing.
You hold on to that while I tell you what we're watching next. So, we are going to shift gears. We're going to go to early summer 1986. We are watching Top Gun, and we are going to be watching it with a guest. Dr. Tracy will be coming on and joining us to discuss her history with Top Gun. And then we will all rewatch it and discuss how we find it now. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Tell us what you think about this film if you have experience with it. By all means, if you love it, please tell me why. Or if you don't love it, or if you can't stop thinking about it, or if you've tried and therapy has not helped, let us know in the comments. In the meantime, we will be back with Top Gun.
Sit back, it's time to get groovy. Question, do you remember that movie?